In a quaint town, a young man met a woman at a daycare center. Drawn to her, he initiated a conversation and they quickly hit it off. The connection was undeniable, and he soon invited her to work in his office. As they spent more time together, the woman became acquainted with the young man's child's mother, who also worked at the company. Despite the young man's clear instructions not to get involved, the woman befriended his child's mother, even spending time with her outside of work. When confronted, she lied about their interactions. Discovering the betrayal, the young man fired her. Desperate to maintain their connection, she pleaded for another chance. Months passed, and he forgave her. They resumed seeing each other on weekends, though it was more of a casual, on-and-off relationship. Both were seeing other people, yet the young man had a soft spot for her. She often brought chocolate and whipped cream, brightening his stressful days. The young man was preparing to buy a house and considered asking the woman to move in with him. He had a young daughter, and she had a teenage daughter. He thought they could cohabitate comfortably. She agreed, but only after moving in did she reveal that she had been living with another man. The young man was shocked, but tried to accept her explanation that she needed a place to stay and felt happier with him. Their life together started well, but tension soon arose when she wanted to spend the night at her father's house. The young man wasn't comfortable with the idea. The disagreement escalated, leading her to move out with her daughter. Yet their bond was strong, and they continued seeing each other on weekends. After 8 months, they decided to give it another try. Blending their families once more, they grew more serious about their relationship. Their days were filled with joy. They even got a dog and took vacations. She worked in his business, living rent-free, and they launched a new party business, celebrating sold-out events and birthdays. However, she occasionally spent time at her father's house, raising suspicions in the young man, though he tried to trust her. In January, she revealed she was pregnant. Surprised, the young man was anxious. They had never used protection before, and she had never gotten pregnant. He wasn't ready for a baby, and after discussions, she chose to have an abortion. The decision weighed heavily on both of them. She grew resentful, questioning his commitment. He tried to console her, saying they could try for a baby later when they were both ready. His mother suggested a job opportunity for her, and she started working as a security guard. About a month into the job, she met a man who showed interest in her. He would bring her snacks and canned sodas. She told the young man about the snacks, but didn't mention he also gave her his number. The young man noticed changes in her behavior. She wore makeup to work and seemed distant at home. Sensing something was off, he checked the GPS tracker on her car. Although she claimed to be at her father's house, the GPS showed a different location nearby. His suspicions grew, but he wanted to trust her. Eventually, he confronted her, suggesting therapy to help them reconnect. It seemed to help, but the feeling of unease lingered. The young man took a trip to New York City with his daughter, leaving the woman behind due to her work commitments. Despite trying to stay positive, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Upon returning, he placed an audio recorder in her car. The recording confirmed his fears. She was having an affair with her coworker. Enraged, he confronted her. She denied it until he played the recording. Feeling betrayed, he asked her to move out. She left with her daughter, moving in with the other man. The young man was devastated, unsure how he had missed the signs of betrayal. Despite the pain, she continued to reach out, apologizing and blaming her actions on the aftermath of the abortion. She wanted to come back, insisting the other man wasn't better. The young man wasn't ready to take her back, but hated the thought of her living with another man. They agreed to talk when he returned from his trip. Back from New York City, he went to her workplace. He saw her arrive with the other man reaching her head into his car window. Hurt, but not caring, he pulled directly. In front of her job quickly to see her reaction, he waited for her to approach him. They embraced, and later that day, despite everything, they spent the night together. The next day was his birthday and they planned to go to the beach. The young woman got up very early and went to the other man's house at 7 a.m. on his birthday. She told him she had to go to the storage. She later returned and went to the beach. Shortly after, she moved back in, but it wasn't long before he discovered she was still in contact with the other man. He found emails with the other guy telling her he loves her and he knows she will be back. She said, "I love you too." She told him she didn't like that he wore his work clothes in the house. She clearly had not ended the affair, even though she told the young man she did. He confronted her, and she claimed it was for closure. The young man jumped into his truck and was on his way down to confront the other man when she jumps into the back seat. The young man arrives at the job and the young woman hides in the back seat hoping not to be seen. She talks him out of it. Once again, she had to move out, only to agree to come back, citing the small space of the other man's apartment and his inability to provide the lifestyle she wants. For the sake of their family, he allowed her back, demanding transparency and access to her accounts and to share locations. She was good for a few months. COVID-19 arrived, and she wanted to visit and stay overnight with her cousin in Tampa, but he was wary. They argued about it. She's saying he's controlling and he doesn't trust her. She packed her bags and she left again, using the time to rekindle her affair, but the young man didn't find out until months later. Despite the betrayal, they continued to see each other. He would always give her chances. She moved back in, but the cycle of deception continued. The young man tried to focus on his growing business, but the lies gnawed at him. Her daughter's graduation came and she disappeared for hours. The GPS led him to the same neighborhood near her father's house. She denied everything, even getting her daughter to back her up. He didn't ask her to leave this time, but grew increasingly frustrated. She wanted to go to an event in Atlanta, and when he refused, she packed and left, only to return days later begging for forgiveness. Each time she left, it became easier, and he began to question if she would ever stop. As time passed, her deceit only grew. She moved out again, claiming she needed space, but continued seeing him. The young man felt trapped in a cycle of hope and heartbreak, wanting to believe her promises but knowing they were empty. Each reconciliation was followed by another betrayal. They moved into a new house, hoping for a fresh start. A year passed and things seemed stable. They settled into the new house and she began to be responsible for the management for the first house. The young man purchased a new business where they could work together in a food truck. They planned a cruise, enjoyed their time together, and returned with renewed commitment. The young man got assurance of her location by a viewing GPS he placed on her car. It appeared she was done messing around with the guy. They had purchased equipment and planned road trips out of state to pick them up. He introduced her to all of his family. But tragedy struck, and he had to travel for a family funeral. While he was away one early morning, he was awakened by a notification on his phone going off back to back, showing she was moving her belongings out of the house. He spoke to her the night before and told her that he wished he had taken her with him. She didn't say a word about planning to move out. He watched on the security cameras as she packed up and left. Later, she returned home without her stuff. She apologized, claiming she needed time to think. She asked if he could store some things in the garage that don't fit in her storage, and he said yes. They continued their relationship from a distance, still seeing each other each night. The young man had seen this show before. He knew she would be home soon. One Thursday afternoon, she announced plans to move to another state to help her daughter join the military. She would be away for a good amount of time and promised to return when it was over. He reminded her that he needed her help with the businesses and that she has a life with him. He supported her financially, calling regularly. She mentioned a new job at a juvenile center, and although he wasn't thrilled, he understood her need to work. A few months in, her communication became sporadic. She claimed her job restricted phone use, but he sensed something was wrong. The young man decided to investigate online by checking her social media accounts. He found she was liking this guy's photos a lot. It was her co-worker Peterson from the detention center. One night while the young man spoke on the phone with her, she mentioned she was going to the club. The young man knew something was up. He asked her if she was involved with anyone. She denied it, saying she goes from home to work most days. He visited her, and they reconciled, spending time together. Yet during intimacy, he noticed an unpleasant odor. Suspecting infidelity, he searched online and found that such a smell could indicate interaction with another man. Confronting her, she coldly admitted to sleeping with her co-worker in the apartment they are in now. She said it happened a few times, but she cut it off. She walked into the other room to gather herself and take a deep breath. The tension in the small apartment was tense. The young man sat in the living room silent, crushed inside but more angry than sad. Realizing she had put him at risk by having sex with her co-worker unprotected, his anger grew. Once again, he was shattered, realizing the cycle would never end. She justified her actions by saying they weren't officially together. She told him it was a mistake, and it because of what happened with the abortion, she still is not feeling the same. "Why didn't you just tell me the truth?" he said. "Why did you lie so badly? Did you bring the man around your granddaughter?" He said, "It's only a one-bedroom apartment." "Where did you sleep with him?" She replied, "In the bed." He yelled, "Does her mother know you are fucking in her bed?" She said, "I pay bills here." He was disgusted with her behavior. Despite her apologies and pleas for friendship, he knew the trust was irreparably broken. He felt sorry for her and himself. He had held on, hoping she would change, but the betrayal was a constant, and he finally understood it was time to let go.